The last 24 hours. What really happened when the dinosaur killer hit? 1.5 kilometers, tsunamis, and global fire. To understand the magnitude of the event that reshaped our planet, we must first transport ourselves back 66 million years. The world of the late Cretaceous period was a place of vibrant, aggressive life. The climate was warm, humid, and teeming with biological diversity. In what is now the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, shallow seas shimmered under a tropical sun. Large reptiles patrolled the waters, and pterosaurs glided on thermal currents. It was a functioning, complex ecosystem that had dominated the planet for over 160 million years. However, a silent assassin was approaching from the dark vacuum of space. It was a carbonaceous chondrite asteroid, a rock roughly 10 to 15 kilometers wide, essentially a mountain the size of Mount Everest, hurtling toward Earth at a speed of approximately 20 kilometers per second. That is 72,000 kilometers per hour. At that speed, you could cross the Atlantic Ocean in under 5 minutes. For the dinosaurs grazing in the Hell Creek Formation or hunting in the fern prairies, there was no warning. There was no breaking news, no air raid siren. There was only the sky, and then in a fraction of a second, it was the end of an era. This investigation seeks to dissect the terrifying sequence of events that occurred within the first 24 hours of the impact. A day known in geological terms as the KPG boundary, the moment of contact, kinetic fury. When the asteroid struck the shallow waters of the Yucatan, the energy release was incomprehensible. Scientists estimate the force was equivalent to 10 billion Hiroshima atomic bombs detonating simultaneously. This was not merely an explosion. It was a piercing of the Earth's crust. The asteroid punched a hole in the atmosphere, creating a vacuum that the air rushed back to fill with thunderous force. Upon impact, the asteroid itself was instantly vaporized, as was the target rock. The bedrock did not just shatter. It behaved like a fluid, rippling outward and then rebounding upward to form a trenchant mountain of granite and meltwater, twice the height of Everest. Before collapsing back into what we now know as the Chicxulub crater dot in the immediate vicinity, nothing survived. The shockwave traveled faster than the speed of sound, flattening forests and obliterating life forms thousands of kilometers away before they could even hear the boom. But the local destruction was only the opening act. The true horror lay in the global chain reaction that had just been triggered. The first hour, the thermal pulse, and the rain of glass as the asteroid vaporized. It blasted millions of tons of molten rock, glass, and debris high into the upper atmosphere and even into space. This material did not stay there. Caught by the Earth's gravity, this ejecta began to rain back down all over the globe. This was not a gentle dust. It was a torrential downpour of red-hot glass spherules, known as tektites. As these billions of tiny meteors re-entered the atmosphere, the friction caused them to incandesce. The collective heat from this re-entering debris turned the Earth's atmosphere into a global broiler. Investigative models suggest that the surface temperature of the planet spiked dramatically. For several hours, the air temperature at ground level may have reached hundreds of degrees Celsius. It was the equivalent of being inside a pizza oven. This is where the first great dying occurred. Any animal that could not burrow underground or submerge itself in deep water was cooked alive. Forests across the globe spontaneously ignited. The geological record shows a layer of soot found worldwide at the KPG boundary, a grim testament to the global wildfires that consumed roughly 70% of the planet's forests in a single afternoon. Hours 1 to 10. The megatsunami, while the sky was burning. The oceans were rebelling. The impact occurred in shallow water, displacing a volume of ocean so massive it defies modern comparison. The initial blast wave created a rim wave, a tsunami, that was estimated to be 1.5 kilometers high. To put that in perspective, That is a wave taller than the cruising altitude of some small aircraft, or nearly twice the height of the Burj Khalifa. This wall of water did not just crash onto the Mexican coast. It raced across the Gulf of Mexico, stripping the sea floor bare. Evidence of this disturbance has been found as far north as North Dakota, thousands of kilometers inland, where fossilized fish were found with tektites in their gills, buried in a jumbled mess of mud and debris, suggesting they were thrown there by a massive surge of water known as SEICHE dot as the hours passed. These waves radiated outward into the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Though they diminished in height as they traveled, they were still hundreds of meters tall when they slammed into coastlines around the world, reshaping continents and dragging terrestrial ecosystems out to sea. Hours, 10 to 24. The descent into darkness as the fires burned down and the waters receded. A new, more insidious threat emerged. The asteroid had hit a region rich in gypsum and anhydride rocks containing sulfur. The impact vaporized these rocks, injecting an estimated 325 gigatons of sulfur aerosols into the stratosphere. Simultaneously, the soot from the global wildfires rose into the atmosphere. This mixture of sulfur and soot formed a thick, impenetrable blanket around the Earth. The sun, which had risen on a tropical paradise that morning, was now blotted out by the end of the first 24 hours. The terrifying heat of the thermal pulse was being replaced by a rapidly onsetting cold. The sunlight was blocked so effectively that photosynthesis stopped almost immediately. The primary producers of the ocean and land, the phytoplankton, and the plants began to die. Aftermath. The nuclear winter, the 24-hour mark, was just the beginning of the end. The dust and aerosols remained in the atmosphere for years, perhaps decades. The Earth plunged into a nuclear winter. Temperatures plummeted. The tropical plants that the great sauropods relied on withered and died. The herbivores starved. And the carnivores, having no prey, starved and turned out in the oceans. The collapse was equally systemic. With no sunlight, the marine food web crashed from the bottom up. Ammonites, mosasaurs, and plesiosaurs vanished. It is estimated that 75% of all species on Earth were wiped out. The non-avian dinosaurs, who had been the masters of the planet, were completely eradicated. The only survivors were those who were small, adaptable, and could scavenge traits found in the early mammals. Our ancestors. Conclusion. The legacy of Chicxulub. Story of the Chicxulub. Impact is a sobering reminder of the fragility of life. In a single day, a dominant biological order that had lasted millions of years was dismantled by a random cosmic event. However, from an investigative standpoint, this catastrophe was also a catalyst. Without that asteroid, the dinosaurs might still rule the Earth today, and mammals might remain small, nocturnal creatures scurrying in the underbrush. The Minute 89 event did not just end the world. It created ours. The ashes of the Cretaceous fires formed the soil from which the Cenozoic era, the age of mammals sprouted. We are here today. Analyzing this event, only because the monsters of the past were cleared away by rock, fire, water, and ice. The scar remains buried beneath the Yucatan, a 150-kilometer wide reminder that the history of life on Earth is written not just by evolution, but by revolution. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this video, learned something new, or simply want to see more content like this, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly helps the channel grow and reach more people. And if you have thoughts or ideas you'd like to share, feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.